Today's story is about a woman who disgraced her mother-in-law in front of her in-laws and cut off relations with them. What happened? Let's take a look together. Please subscribe and like our channel.
Before the marriage, my mother-in-law didn't seem like a bad person. Even if she was a bit difficult, I would have married my husband. I loved him that much. Before the wedding, the mother-in-law I saw was a very active, sociable middle-aged woman. She told me, even after you get married, continue to be active and pursue your hobbies. She seemed nice for saying that. However, after the marriage, she showed a different side. Before the wedding, she told me to wear makeup better. I usually wear light makeup and dress modestly. But she told me to wear heavier makeup and try wearing short skirts. She said it's not bad to stand out in public. I've lived my whole life being quiet, so I liked what she said. But after we got married, she said completely different things. She even complained when I wore shorts in the middle of summer. She said that even in the summer, when coming to the in-laws' house, I should wear long pants or a long skirt. I regret not immediately asking her why she was being so two-faced. I knew that my husband's relatives would gather at the in-laws' house during holidays. Because my father-in-law is the eldest son. At the first holiday after our marriage, I asked my mother-in-law if my younger father-in-law and aunts would come. She said the aunts would go to their in-laws' house. So I only bought gifts for my parents-in-law and my younger father-in-law, and went to the in-laws' house. But when I got there, all the aunts were there. I was so flustered that I didn't know what to do, so I told the truth. I said that I had asked my mother-in-law a few days ago, and she said the aunts wouldn't come, so I only prepared gifts for my younger father-in-law. And I planned to send gifts for the aunts after the holiday by delivery. The aunts said they were grateful just to hear that, and I didn't need to send them gifts, but my mother-in-law shamed me. She said, "The daughter-in-law doesn't know manners. Even if the aunts don't come, you should prepare gifts." At that time, I was so flustered that I couldn't reply and my face turned red. But when I came home and thought about it, I was so angry. Can't my niece's daughter-in-law order holiday gifts by delivery? Since there are many deliveries before the holiday, can't I send it after the holiday? I was annoyed when I thought about it. Was my thinking wrong? Even if my thinking was wrong, did she have to say that in front of everyone to shame me? When my mother-in-law first came to our newly home, she said this: "Why did you buy this kind of mop cleaner in such a big house? This is all a waste." I'm also a working person, so I clean occasionally, but it wasn't easy. I mopped the floor with a mop cleaner and wiped places like window frames with a hand mop. But it seemed like my mother-in-law didn't like me cleaning easily. She said it's good to clean with a hand mop because it's also exercise. But she didn't say it nicely and her tone was disdainful. Every time my mother-in-law said something that hurt my feelings, I told her not to do that. My mother-in-law said, "Is it wrong for a mother to teach her daughter?" and got really angry at my husband. Both my husband and I didn't know what to say. So we were like bees that ate honey. My mother-in-law asked why there was no pregnancy news. Starting from a month after our marriage, we planned to have a baby after paying off all our loans. My mother-in-law said, "Loan? Did you have debt before you got married?" She said that. It wasn't that I had debt, but that I was talking about the loan we took out when we got our newly home lease, and my mother-in-law looked surprised. She asked why we took out a loan on our own, and said we should have talked to her if we had something like that. But was she really saying that? Before the wedding, my mother-in-law definitely said she was sorry, but she couldn't support our wedding, and told us to handle our wedding on our own. So I told that to my parents. Our parents wanted to provide the same amount of support for our wedding as they did for my brothers, but they couldn't afford it. When I shared this with my mother-in-law, she denied ever having such conversations and questioned its possibility. My husband got quite frustrated at this point. He argued that his mother had agreed to not receive any support from our side. So why was she denying it now? My mother-in-law was evasive in her responses. She asked my husband why he turned down the support from his in-laws, and if he thought that refusing it would make them not provide it. This made me feel suffocated. I was under a lot of stress, because my mother-in-law was behaving completely differently than before we got married. No matter what my husband said, my mother-in-law wouldn't change and only gave evasive answers. She even started treating me as a strange woman. My father-in-law was the one who took good care of me. I put up with my mother-in-law because of him, as he always looked at me kindly. Even the smallest compliment from my father-in-law would make me wary of my mother-in-law, as her jealousy would inevitably follow. She would pick unnecessary fights or imply that I had done something wrong. I was under a lot of stress. When I tried to confront her, she would say, "Are you arguing with your mother-in-law? Who forced you to marry into our family?" If my husband or father-in-law tried to intervene, she would lay in bed for days, acting as if they had shamed her in front of me. To be honest, I thought my mother-in-law was mentally ill, even when she pretended to be sick. I wished my husband and father-in-law would stand up for me, but that didn't happen. I couldn't understand why my mother-in-law was tormenting me like this. I couldn't find a reason to continue enduring this. When I shared my feelings with my husband, he understood me completely and promised to make sure his mother didn't behave this way again. But he couldn't be harsh with her. I even thought about divorce. I felt that if I divorced my husband, my mother-in-law would be happy, and I decided to find a way out for myself. I thought of her as someone who saw me as a seductress who bewitched her husband, and I couldn't forgive her. Then, a problem arose regarding ancestral rights. I finally said everything that I needed to say, and paid back all the torment she had given me so far. I knew that there were 4 ancestral rites a year in my husband's family. I heard that my mother-in-law also prepared for the rites, and I thought I could go to my husband's family's house after work. But on the first rite after our marriage, my mother-in-law got very angry when I went to our house after work. She accused me of disregarding their family by arriving so late. Then she told me that since she had been conducting the rites so far, I should take over from now on. She even told me what kind of herbs my grandfather-in-law liked when he was alive. My mother-in-law insisted that I should conduct the rites at our house, even when my mother-in-law objected, saying we could do it, and how could she pass it on to the working child? She said, "Is she a child?" My mother-in-law was excitedly teaching me how to prepare the soup and the fruits for the ancestral rites. I cut her off and told her, "You don't have to teach me such things. If I take over the rites, I'm going to abolish them. So there's no need for me to learn." My mother-in-law started shouting, "What on earth are you doing?" I responded, "That's right. If you wanted to pass the rights on to a working daughter-in-law, you should have been prepared for this. I was planning to abolish the ancestral rights from our generation anyway. Just think of it as happening a bit sooner than expected." My mother-in-law started yelling, "Look at what she's saying," in front of my father-in-law and my husband's younger parents. I let out all the things I hadn't been able to say to my mother-in-law. I addressed the strange guilt she had imposed on me, the lies she had told, and how she had treated me like a seductress trying to charm my father-in-law. I laid it all out. Whenever she tried to interrupt me, I shouted for her to listen until the end and kept talking. My husband's younger parents were shocked, asking if these things truly happened. When my mother-in-law loudly told them not to believe me, I asked, Wouldn't my younger mother-in-law clearly know what kind of person you are? If you say that, wouldn't my words seem like lies? My mother-in-law was left speechless and dumbfounded. I told her that I was someone who had even considered divorce because of her torment. And what did she think I couldn't do? I told my husband to go home. My husband followed me out, saying that because of his mother, I couldn't even come here anymore. As we left my in-laws' house, I told my mother-in-law, "Before you list out all the things you've done wrong to me and beg for forgiveness, I can't forgive you." And we returned home. When we got home, my husband said that he should have dealt with his mother strongly from the beginning, and his failure to do so had escalated the situation. I didn't want to blame my husband because he had tried in his own way. So I asked him to make sure to be my firm defender from now on, and he promised to do so. I don't understand why my mother-in-law treated me so badly. Now, I don't even want to understand. I can live without seeing my mother-in-law as it is now. If I did something wrong, I would like you all to tell me. Thank you for listening to my story.
What if the father-in-law and husband had intervened strongly? If they had, the mother-in-law might not have heard harsh words from her daughter-in-law. Wouldn't it have been better for both?